There's a chilling truth that many of us prefer to ignore. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed. What begins as a harmless curiosity can quickly spiral into unimaginable terror. I learned this lesson the hard way one fateful night when I made the grave mistake of reaching out to the spirits, believing I could handle whatever consequences might arise. It was a dreary evening, the kind that wraps around you like a thick fog, making the world outside feel eerie and remote. My friends and I had gathered for a sleepover, the perfect recipe for ghost stories and daring games. As the clock ticked towards midnight, the air crackled with excitement and just a hint of fear. That's when one of my friends, Sarah, suggested we try a séance. At first, we all laughed it off, but curiosity quickly got the better of us. Armed with a flickering candle, a makeshift Ouija board crafted from a piece of cardboard, and our naive bravado, we huddled around the table in the dimly lit room. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as we placed our fingers on the planchette, the energy between us buzzing like static electricity. "Is there anyone here with us?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The candle flickered, casting elongated shadows on the walls. For a moment, nothing happened, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. But just as I was about to dismiss the whole idea, the planchette began to move, gliding effortlessly across the board. "Yes," it spelled out, each letter sending chills down my spine. The thrill of the unknown rushed through me, but it was soon overshadowed by a growing unease. We were asking questions, and the responses became increasingly sinister. "What do you want?" one of my friends inquired, his voice trembling. The planchette spelled out, "Leave." Laughter erupted as we tried to dismiss it as mere coincidence, a trick of our collective imagination. But deep down, I could feel a shift in the atmosphere. The shadows grew darker, the air colder, and a palpable tension filled the room. Ignoring the warning, we pressed on, convinced we could handle whatever came next. It was at that moment we made the mistake of asking a question we had all been too afraid to voice. "Is there something you want to show us?" The planchette jerked violently across the board, spelling out "beneath." A wave of dread washed over me as I looked at my friends, their faces pale and anxious. Despite the fear creeping in, our curiosity kept us rooted in our seats. Finally, unable to bear the tension, we decided to take the séance to the next level. We all agreed to head to the basement, the very place none of us wanted to be. Armed with a flashlight, we descended the rickety stairs, the air growing colder with each step. As we reached the bottom, the darkness enveloped us, and the only sound was the faint creaking of the old house, as if it were groaning in protest. In the middle of the basement, we set up our makeshift séance once more. We repeated our previous question, and to our horror, the planchette began to move again, spelling out, "You shouldn't have come." A panic surged through me, but before I could voice my concerns, a cold wind swept through the basement, extinguishing our candle and plunging us into darkness. Fear gripped us as we fumbled for our flashlights, but as the beams flickered back to life, we realized we weren't alone. In the corner of the basement stood a dark figure, its features obscured by shadows. It loomed ominously, and as we shone our lights in its direction, it seemed to dissolve into the darkness, leaving us breathless with terror. "What was that?" Sarah gasped, her voice shaking. I could only shake my head, my heart pounding. We stumbled back toward the stairs, desperate to escape the oppressive darkness, when a loud crash echoed behind us. Something had fallen, or perhaps had been thrown, and it sent us racing back up the stairs, our hearts racing and minds racing with dread. As we reached the top, we slammed the door shut, gasping for breath. It was then that I felt a cold touch on my shoulder, a lingering sensation that sent a jolt of panic through my entire being. I whipped around, expecting to see one of my friends, but no one was there. The atmosphere shifted again, becoming suffocating and heavy, like an invisible weight pressing down on us. I could hear whispers, soft and unintelligible, filling the air with a sinister promise. "You should have left us alone," they seemed to say, each word sending a chill down my spine. Desperate to escape, we rushed outside into the cool night air, the oppressive feeling lifting slightly as we stepped onto the grass. We thought we were free, that we had left whatever presence we had disturbed behind. But I quickly discovered that was not the case. That night marked the beginning of a nightmare that would haunt my dreams for weeks to come. The figure from the basement followed me, lurking in the shadows, whispering my name. I could feel its presence, a dark cloud of dread that lingered in every corner of my home. I began to see glimpses of it in the reflection of mirrors, hear it in the rustling of leaves outside my window. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, a mere figment of my imagination, but the whispers grew louder, more demanding. "You awakened us," they echoed, "and now you must pay the price." Sleep became a distant memory as I tossed and turned, haunted by visions of the shadowy figure. Each night I would wake up gasping, my heart racing, convinced that I had felt its icy breath on my skin. Desperate for answers, I turned to old books about the occult, seeking guidance and a way to protect myself. I learned that once you invite spirits into your life, it can be nearly impossible to send them away. The only way to break the connection was to confront the spirit and apologize for the intrusion. With trembling hands, I gathered the courage to perform a banishing ritual, hoping to send the entity back to where it belonged. As I lit candles and chanted the incantations, the atmosphere in my room shifted, the air thickening with tension. Shadows danced on the walls, and I felt the presence growing stronger, more agitated. It was as if the spirit knew what I was trying to do, but I pressed on, determined to reclaim my life from the nightmare that had consumed me. With each word I spoke, I could feel the energy in the room change. The whispers turned into a cacophony of angry voices, filling my head with their fury. "You cannot escape us," they cried, and just as I reached the climax of the ritual, a deafening silence fell. The candles flickered and extinguished, plunging me into darkness. In that moment, I felt a cold hand grasp my wrist, pulling me into the void. Panic surged through me, but I forced myself to remember why I was fighting. "I'm sorry," I shouted into the darkness, my voice breaking with fear. "I didn't mean to disturb you." Suddenly, the pressure released, and I was thrown back into my room, gasping for breath. The shadows receded, and a calm settled over me. The whispers faded into silence, leaving only a faint echo behind. I sat in the darkness, trembling, unsure if it was truly over. Though the haunting presence was gone, the experience left an indelible mark on my soul. I realized that some things are best left undisturbed, that the night holds secrets that should remain hidden. I learned that curiosity can lead to unforeseen consequences, and that once you call upon the spirits, you must be prepared to face the unimaginable. From that day forward, I vowed never to seek out the supernatural again. The darkness that once felt so inviting now seemed terrifyingly vast, a reminder of the consequences that can arise when we ignore the warnings of the unknown.